Scott Show and all these friends.
Welcome, everybody. As we all see it, the show where we take on topics that are from the serious to the absurd, and put our little spins on it, our little pieces of experience, and more importantly, we just have a little bit of fun taking a look at things, and hopefully maybe lending a perspective that you haven't had before, or a perspective that you could use at this time. But here's the thing: if you're going to have one question with the 6 people on this screen, or the 9 people we have other days, you're going to get 6 or 9 different answers, and that's the beauty of this. So there is no right one. The only one that's right is the last one, still on the air before we sign off. So, and we've all learned to stay on until the very end. So that's
we fight for it.
Yeah, we fight for it. We fight for it. The final word. Anyway, how is everybody?
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. I'm glad you're going.
Awesome.
I'm having some mouse issues and screen issues here, so I'm just do whatever I can in the background.
Okay.
You need to get some rat poison, you'll be fine.
I just ordered a new mouse from the Amazon, so I need more mice problems.
I don't think she needs it deader.
No judgments here, right?
Yes, yes. The topic of the day, and I'm going to bring this up. Somebody I don't want to put the person out there because it's their personal business. But I have a family member who had to go into the hospital and spent the weekend in the hospital. And one of the things that happened was, even driving there, I started to already play in my head, this is how this is going to go. This is how we're going to have to wait here. And this is how we're going to have to do this. And we're going to be treated badly by the first person. I had all these scenarios in my head, some of it from my own experiences, some of it from, I'm going to be honest, my own ignorance. And so I went in with this expectation that it was not going to be a good experience. And so, in a sense, the only one who made it a bad experience was me. I walked in with this chip on my shoulder. And it turned out that people that helped out my family member were so incredibly nice. Even though spending a couple days in the hospital and waiting for a bed and doing certain things that take a little bit of time, it is a pain in the butt. These were the nicest people. It was a clean, beautiful hospital. It's not one I'd been in before, and the experience was incredible. But it took me a little while to turn off all of my bullshit and turn off all of my judgment and expectations and simply say, this experience doesn't have to be what I think it's going to be. It's going to be what it's going to be. And how many times do we ruin things? And I had to look back at myself and say, if I go into a movie, sit down and say, this movie's going to suck, this is going to be terrible, it's going to be very difficult for me to enjoy that film instead of just reserving judgment and sitting and enjoying it. When I meet people, sometimes I prejudge. Maybe it's because of the job they do, or maybe it's because of maybe a rumor I've heard. And it turns out most of the time when I prejudge and I do things like that, I'm wrong. And like was this experience in the hospital. And finally, thank God I at least am a calmer human being than I used to be, because I would have went in there screaming, saying, if somebody doesn't help this person, I'm going to sue everyone in this goddamn hospital. And I would have been that way. But how often do we do that? How often do we prejudge people, experiences, jobs, whatever it might be? Doing trainings. I do trainings, and sometimes I think, well, this crowd's going to suck. It's full of it's all policemen. They're not going to be any fun. Turns out they're the most fun. They are really the most fun to train. First time I trained them, I had the wrong expectation, and I probably under-delivered because I was delivering to something I expected instead of what was really there. So let's talk about that today, about how prejudging, judgments, expectations can limit us in our experience.
I'm going to add to that so that
Yes.
we have more conversation while I still have internet and stuff here. It's funny because I had a situation just today. My dad, I usually get the internet when I go down to my dad. And the last time I had internet there, I won't say the internet carrier, but I will just say internet carrier. Last time I was so upset, the service that I got, because you should be able to put it on seasonal and they were charging me the regular rate and all this other stuff. And long story short, I called today and I said, look, I'm going to apologize beforehand. It's not your fault. but I had crappy service. And I said, I'm not looking forward to this conversation, but I'm going to need internet at my dad's house. And long story short, it superseded what I expected. But mind you, I kept it open. But what I did though is I already let them know that I did not have a good experience with you the last time. So if I get a little antsy, it's because of I'm not happy that I have to have service with you guys again. And it went really well. One, she was very copacetic and very understanding. And two, I was willing to listen and hear the different options. And I kind of blown away from what happened. Now, mind you, going forward, we'll see. I ended up even changing my phone from Verizon over to them to give them a chance. But when you get a whole year of phone service for free, okay, I'm saving myself $1,200. So, but again, she gave me the special package and she gave me a deal, and I'm happy at the moment. Now we'll see. This will be a conversation I bring up after they trap me in. But what I'm saying is it's really cool because I think if I didn't explain my experience before, she said we have some packages, and then I have a special package I can give you for all the trouble you've gone through and giving us a chance. And I was just blown away. So again,
Wow.
I'm very impressed. But again, I think if you're upset or something doesn't go right, you should just say, hey, this situation or this triggers me, or I've had situations, I don't know how this is going to be, but please excuse my attitude about this, because from what I know, this is, and things got cleared up and things were wrong what they did before. And, they got extra money out of me but they made it right this time for right now. So
It's so funny, Lynn, because in the middle of that, you're like, I'm happy for now, but so
exactly.
even though I'm so glad you made me happy, but I still have I'm still reserving that I think you're going to screw this up somehow.
Well,
so
right.
it's like sleeping on the edge of the bed, where if I just roll the wrong way, I'm going off the bed and landing on the floor. Why not move to the middle of the bed and enjoy the soft mattress, right? Okay.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Working in bail bond enforcement, training and discipline are the key.
That's my
bail bond agent there.
Yeah, well, that's my nephew that I didn't grow up knowing him till recently after my brother passed away. So we're just reconnecting. So I'm glad he's watching. He served our country real well for, through some war. So I really love him, and he's turning his life around. So I'm glad he's here.
Excellent. So does anybody want to pick up on where we went with this for Judgments, expectations, and is this something worth talking about?
I'll jump in.
Okay. Jump in.
It's something definitely worth talking about. For those of you who don't know, everybody here knows, but people out there may not know. I work in relationships. Let's just say judgments and expectations definitely can interact in your relationship experience to make or break them. So the judgments and expectations, and I'll preface by saying that, as was, I think, Scott, you already said it, it's all inside of us. Meaning that it's 99% of the time never about something out there that's going on in the first place that starts it. We build up a fantasy, that's a good word for it, about how things are going to be in our relationships, in the world, in our job, in the bank accounts, in the food we get, whatever it is. We make up these fantasies. And then what's weird about it is oftentimes the fantasy is negative and depressing and judgmental. But when it doesn't actually get met, we get even more upset. If something gets better than that, we get upset, like, that's not what I wanted. I want something worse than that. That's how weird we get wider in there, So the judgment piece, and the thing about judgment expectations, yes, you can create your reality, basically, by having so much of a clarity about what you don't want that you're not manifesting what you don't want because you keep getting stuck on what you don't want. I think you made that point clear. Rather than saying what's possible. One of the things I've learned many times over the years, and we use the framing something like, this is something better. This or some other possibilities, so that we keep ourselves open to what could happen. Because for most of us, what we actually do happen, most of us, what does happen is usually better than we can expect. So my recommendation for anybody in any area of life, especially in relationship, is what is possibly better than what I'm thinking now? What could happen that could be better than this? So play with that.
So Barrett, when you say that that's considered experiences, though, as well?
what I'm saying
Your
is that
experiences. Yeah, go ahead.
oftentimes reflect basically what we hold in our values. We create the definition is we create our own reality. So if we're creating, if we believe it's going to be crappy, bad, suck, and everything else, then it tends to go that way. Not always, but it does tend to go that way. Because our experience inside is what we're talking about here. What happens out there oftentimes doesn't match what we're doing inside, which is really crazy. But we filter what's happening out there through our own lens of it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And then we feel bad doesn't work.
Well, when you have shitty internet, you have shitty internet, though. Just say it.
Just saying, yeah, right.
But but you can enjoy shitty internet or not.
Exactly. It's how you deal with it. Hey.
My God.
Rex, take over, please.
Right?
Rex, take over, please.
Take over, Rex.
No. Well, this could be a lifelong masterclass. I mean, in this topic. Mm-hmm. First off, I would add, it isn't that we sometimes do this. We do it 24/7. We just only notice it sometimes. We are predisposed to make judgments and have expectations because our neurology is set to find those things in the universe that don't go according to, so that we stay alive. So we're always checking things out, and we understand that we're a pattern recognizing, detecting machine, essentially, so we can recognize the faces of other people, but we don't recognize the face of the other person now for the first time. We recognize it for the first time later, long ago, and now are seeing it again in our head through the configurement of what we understand that person to be. That's why we don't notice people getting haircuts or glasses or wearing hats or those kinds of things until we notice that, wow, something's changed. So we're always making judgments, and we're always making expectations and evaluations around us, and some are positive and some aren't. And it's a gift to be able to do that. It's also a limitation to be able to do that. So it's both.
Can that,
like shitty internet.
It is automatic.
Enjoy it or not?
I agree with you that it is automatic. It's what we do when we walk into a situation. It's not like we walk in.
We always do it.
Whatever happens. We got an idea.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is it is so part of what we do that we don't even notice that we're doing it. We're doing it about everything. If you get a cup of coffee, you expect it to be a certain way. If you get a kiss from someone, you expect certain, if you go to the gas station, you expect, there's all built-in expectations around everything. Not all of them are negative judgments, however.
Yes. But what if they become destructive? Well, what if they become destructive where I am going to ruin every one of my experiences by creating these scenarios, which happens to us sometimes, either in a category or across the board?
Well, you have to understanding the mechanism first is that it can be destructive, but it's based on your past experiences. It's not based on what's happening now, because now is new. You can't recognize the newness. You can only recognize the past or the patterns from the past. So you react out of what we call anchored feelings or associations or judgments or expectations or ideas or whatever you want to call it. But here's the thing. One of my specialties, for example, is framing. The more that you can frame something when you're going into a situation with other people of what they might expect or not expect or what might take them by surprise or whatever, the more you're apt to preempt any issues that may come up or inoculate them from problems. So this is great, but there's also out framing and doing all sorts of other things and working outside the box. So the key is this. While we are a creature of our habits, which include our expectations, our judgments, our attitudes, our values, all this stuff, we can also operate somewhat independently of it. We can get free of these. It's a matter of releasing and letting go. It's a matter of sometimes doing exercises. That's why I said it could be a lifelong class, but it's understanding the mechanism is going to be there. So if you have a snowball at the top of Mount Everest and it starts to snowball down, it's going to gain in weight and mass and velocity and everything else, and it's going to pick up and get really big. The trick for all of this stuff is called emotional flooding and emotional intelligence and this kind of stuff, that things happen when our neurology is triggered, chemicals start going and we go, right? The triggering incident only lasts an infinitesimal amount of time, but then it goes through the body and the hormones and the neurochemicals. So if you can catch it, and you can, it's just like when you inhale, you don't inhale, exhale, exhale. You inhale, stop, exhale, stop, inhale. Your heart beats, and then it doesn't beat. There's a gap. if you become sensitive and you're aware of the gap before you launch into an emotional flood or a judgmental flood or an expectation flood or anything that's negative, with anger, people say, I saw red, but they don't like instantly get angry. Rage happens very quickly because it becomes a habit. Because they do it a lot, those habits get traveled so very fast that it seems like it's instant. But if you say, I noticed myself starting to breathe, or I noticed my hands starting to tingle, or I noticed my peripheral vision shifting, when you begin to notice what's going on, you can subvert it, you can intervene, you can catch it and say, I'm not going that pathway. That takes practice in the same way you have to exercise your body. You have to exercise your emotions, your thinkings, your judgments, your behaviors, and your speech in the same way. So, it's like rage seems instantaneous, but it actually isn't. There's a moment before, there's a moment after, and there's that moment during, when it triggers, and then the sequence happens. For some, it's a slow burn, and for others, it's almost instant. And that's just habit.
And Rex,
I agree with everything you're saying. I don't get the habit. I don't get the habit thing. I'm not understanding the habit.
It's not a
damn highlighters again.
Huh?
And
damn
Rex,
highlighters again.
Being my mentor, and you've put this in my head, and I understand it. I'd like you to answer this comment, because I think I know what you're going to be response to this, to my nephew here, and that's. He says, I realized after 43 years, life can only be understood in reverse.
That's how most people live their life, is in reverse. They live from the past, or try and avoid the future, but they're living from past experience. Very few people get to the present where they actually are living in this moment without judgment. In this moment, you and I are completely safe. I mean, unless we're in something, bombs are going off, or we're in a life-threatening situation. But most people are either, if you say, how are you? They tell you what happened in their past, or they tell you what might happen in their future. And if it's good in the past or the future, they're in the past or future, but it's good. And if it's not good in the past or future, then it's not good. But in the present, it's neither of those things. It's just right now, whatever's going on right now. And so where especially with this, where I would agree with the statement, is that it was Jobs that said it, but the principle's been around forever. You can connect the dots looking back, but you can't necessarily connect the dots looking forward. So you could go back and look at your life and go, had I known what I know now, I would have valued that experience much more. Or that horrible thing that I thought was the death of me was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today. So a lot of our lessons do come from looking back, or because we can't really look anywhere else. I have a question that I ask in all my workshops and programs: what's good and new? And a lot of people can say what's good, but it's very difficult for people to say what's new right now. I never thought of that before. I never did that before. Or even what's good, they'll say, well, I had a donut for breakfast, or I had, yogurt for breakfast. They don't go, what is good this instant? Because they scan, and that's the nature of the brain, is to be everywhere but here.
So thank you for that.
That's amazing. I love the dot to dot thing, because when you're connecting dots, if you're only looking at where you are with that one dot, you never get to see the whole picture. You actually have to use your past, look back and see what was connected already, so that you can start to see what you're building in the whole picture. But I love where you're going with that. And just as I want to go to Scott Schilling now, because you gave us a great perspective, Rex. Really appreciate that. So Scott, where do you want to pick this up from?
Well, there's a number of different ways to go. Two little kids run into a barn, and there's a pile of. Oh wait, we won't go all the way back there.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yet to be there.
I'm going to write my book. My book is going to be my book. I'm writing my book. Jokes that won't die. That's all. That's what my jokes that won't die.
How about jokes you can't kill?
Yeah, really. Yeah. That's true too. No, I mean, I think Barry said it earlier. Fantasy, right? That we create this fantasy. Well, let's take that one step further. Fantasized experience appearing real. That's where the fear comes in, because that fantasy is created. We've taken and we've done an evaluation of a situation, typically based on something that has happened in the past or has happened to somebody else, that all of a sudden we feel we need to adopt for some stupid reason, which makes no sense. And so I think a big part of it is we're always working on, proper expectations. I called a buddy of mine today and I said, dude, I'm just tired. I'm worn out. I've been on the road. I've done stuff that I haven't done, and haven't slept well on the road and different things like that. And I'm just tired. And he said, cool. He said, now just relax. So you don't get the same expectations, you don't get the same refill and different things like that. So I think I've noticed it. That's why I called him this morning and I said, I just need a friend to talk to. And he was like, that's awesome. And, I think that especially when we get through a bunch of stuff, I'm actually writing a presentation right now. And one of the things I put in there is the various challenges that we're facing as a country and as a people, right? Immigration and gas prices and fentanyl and inflation and and then here I am, I'm writing all this stuff out, and I went, can we control this, or is it out of our control? The answer is all of it's out of our control. As an individual, it's out of our control. So therefore, recognize that and control the things you can control. And so that's why, it was really funny. I was working on that and I saw it and I said, what can I control right now? I can call a buddy and get some good juju and have somebody to talk through. It's okay to be tired. It's okay that if you do those things. So again, from an expectation side, you could have had an expectation that he wasn't going to receive that well, or he wasn't going to be supportive, or he wasn't. But that's not the way I expected it. I expected him to be fully supportive and whatever. So again, where is where's your mindset in all this and whatever? It's absolutely true. We have the ability to judge everything. But I said it to somebody last week. I said, I've got like 6 or 7 different old business cards, and not one of them says judge and jury. It says all sorts of different titles, but none of them say that it's my job to judge something and whatever. It's my job to just the opposite, to be the living example of beliefs and of the goodness that I would like to spread. And people can accept that or not. They could judge and go, you're on puppy uppers. What the hell's your problem? Yeah. Well, I found it's more fun to be nice. Somebody said, can you go into a strange situation and talk to anybody? And I go, yeah. And they said, why? I said, because I like people. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something. And even if you say, hey, what's going on? And they say, oh, the world sucks. Oh, really? Why do you say that? It's like, well, you're going to piss me off and talk to me about how the world sucks? Yeah, I am actually. Why not? Let's try to modify that a little bit. So again, I think we all have that ability to, it comes back. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about choice. We can choose what we choose to judge critically. We can choose what we expect out of situations. We never know what this show is going to be like on Tuesday nights, but we all come because the expectation is we're going to have fun.
Yeah. And I love how you said take care. I love how you said, excuse me a second, John. I love how you said you see what you can take care of from inside, because when you do take care of things inside, like Scott has, Jonesy, once you take care of the inside, then you want to go out and help others like Scott has done. You can see the light and you can share that. So It is an inside job. And if people would realize that, they'd be more efficient than trying to half-ass help people when they don't even help themselves. So, John,
I'm always glad I've learned to talk to people before I slap them. That's all. I've learned to talk to people before I slap them, because not everybody deserves to get slapped. Not everybody does. So, John, how are you, brother?
Yeah, Nice to see you. Barry, real quick, before I ask my question, I have a UK viewer that is texting me and said, "Where is Barry from in the UK?" So they were wondering because they're watching.
Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah. No. I'm basically an East Ender, so Essex and London on the border.
There you go. I hope they got it. Secondly, what I've implemented with my team is, and it's funny, the mindset always comes up. I am a crazy mindset guy. It's nuts what it does, and when it happens, it's freaking incredible. And I reached out to the team last week. I said, here's what we're going to do. Once a day, send a thank you email internally to the company from someone. Don't copy everyone. No one needs to know you're doing it. But when you open up your email in the morning and you get a, "Hey, Scott, thanks so much, man. That was awesome. You're awesome. Thanks for everything." Your mindset from that day starts positive. So it's common sense, doesn't cost you a penny. It's really simple. It takes 30 seconds to send an email. If you were to send an email to someone you know every day with a positive message, imagine how their day starts. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
Love you, John. Thanks for being here.
So let's take it to the next step. Let's assume that we're always, and I think this is fine. This is how we have to go through life. I step through a doorway. What I'm doing is I've used my own experiences in my past to make an idea about what I'm walking towards, and it's automatic. I get that. It all makes sense. Are there little tricks and tools? Now, Rex, you said that, yeah, you learn to kind of stop it on the in-betweens. You feel it coming, kind of like, well, listen, I don't want to kind of go there, so let me try to relax a little bit. Does anybody have any like real-world techniques for stepping back from what's going on in your head and just, moving forward?
I'm sure
I'll share one that I have with people. I'll share one that I have with people when you start to feel that anxiety about events coming up. Scott, I think you said it, that, that's the beginning of fear and things like that too. When you start doing those things, take a cold bottle of water and hold it against your wrist for 30 seconds. And it actually releases chemistry in the brain that calms you. Just a cold bottle of water, hold it against your wrist. Sometimes if you're starting to feel anxious about a situation or something's going on and you're starting to get too much in your head, take a moment, do something like that. But let's see, what kind of little tricks have you guys learned in your time that helps you calm down? Barry, let's start with you.
Oh, okay.
Because you look like you got something to say.
Always. I want to say something. It may not be useful, but I can always say something.
Well, now that I know that you're actually from London, and you're much more interesting than you were before.
See, expectations.
Well, wait a second. He said he lives on the border.
Yeah.
He's just claiming London.
Okay. No, the thing for me that I've had to use a lot of times, and I've used it myself and I give it to clients, and it's such a simple thing because it's so obvious. People talk about this. The idea of when you get upset, count to 10. Anytime you feel out of sorts, before you have an interaction, something happening in a relationship, if you're going somewhere, I always recommend is do the equivalent of taking count to 10, meaning just take a moment to take a breath or two to slow yourself down, because most people go from event to event, from circumstance to circumstance, from place to place, without any, like, Rex was saying, that gap in between. That's the gap he's talking about as well. When you're gonna, like, if you drive into an appointment, you get out of the car, dash inside the building because you're running late. There's no time to think, oh, I need to be present now. If you're already late, take 10 more seconds to be present. Then you're walking clean and you start with a better attitude. So something as simple as that, anywhere, you use that one.
I find when I work with people in the whole kind of take a step back, the proverbial count to 10 moment. A lot of people use that to try to think about what's going on, and they actually can actually themselves a little bit clearer, because they're like, you know what I'm saying? They take that moment to become even more disturbed. And more like, all right, let me take a breath before they're going to kill me in 5 seconds. I'm taking 10 seconds to break because this is going to be horrible. So you've got to actually use some sort of positive, almost a mantra in those moments, don't you?
It can be anything. It could just be taking a breath. It could be looking at the sky and looking how beautiful it is. Do something that moves you out of your current state. The main reason for doing it is to shift your energy. I mean, Rez can talk about this for days, I know. Just about shifting your energetics, because the truth is that we oftentimes run so like hell for leather into the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We don't take a breath to recognize that we're present. Like Ross was saying about the past and the present, past and the future, rather. Being present is what the key is. When you can bring yourself present after you drove and you're thinking about the drive you had in and you worry about the appointment you got ahead of you, take the moment in the present to be present. Be present in the present. It sounds so simple.
The power of now.
Can I jump in and add to that? Because that's quite
Please do.
There's a saying that we've used in NLP for a long time, which is, if something isn't working, do anything else. Because if you always do the same thing over and over again, you get the same results, right? Do something else. But I would say do anything else, because anything else gives you that break. So there's hundreds of thousands of ways to move forward. The trick for people is not the taking the break and doing. I mean, it is, but it's recognizing that they need to take that break, remembering they need to take that break. So what I would submit is the first thing that people ought to do is understand the power of optimism and the power of belief and the power of the placebo and the power of faith and the power of certainty and the power of, of these affirmations and autosuggestion, all we're talking about, and realize this, that when you encounter a person who you can't stand or that is attacking you verbally or whatever, or a situation in life that isn't what you expected or wanted, whether it's the bank doing something to you or the gas station or your car blowing up, understand, or you say, I'm going to do this, and then you get afraid and you're doubting and you're fearful or you're sad or you're angry. Understand that is the signal to take that break. That is the gift the universe gives you to understand that, hey, you're going to go down that yellow brick road to hell as opposed to the yellow brick road to the Emerald City. You need to make a change at that point. But if you don't recognize what's going on, what you do is you end up where you always would end up. You end up in the rage or the sadness or the anger or the fear or whatever you have been conditioned to do through your life. So if you want it to be different, it's kind of like the reason there's a stoplight is to say, hey, there's an intersection here so that you can see it so that you know to stop. Some people still run them, but it's an opportunity to stop and then start again, or change directions or go back the other way. So whichever way you go will be fine as long as you don't continue through the stoplight and into the mouth of hell, right? Which is what you're just asking about. How do you avoid that? So you first recognize the signal. And then you do as Barry said, you can take a breath, you can count to 10, you can skip, you can dance, you can look at the sky, you can affirm, you can do all these things, but understand that they will in fact work. But you first have to get that break in there so that you're not continuing through something. I loved what you said. If you're running late into a building and you have the presence of mind to say, wait, 10 seconds to get present. And yet that's what most people don't do. But you can learn to make that a habit by doing what you need to do to make it a habit. And then when you make it a habit, you're now free from the conditioning that you've lived for so long, because you now have a new positive, productive habit. One of the most powerful habits is that of optimism, because it releases the right hormones and chemicals in your body. It relieves you of stress. It allows you to think and recognize opportunities you might otherwise miss because of stress and whatever. So it's powerful. People go positive thinking. Yes, positive thinking is important.
Yes.
Wow.
And go to rexsikes.com. He has a great Audible that I think everybody should have. Seriously.
Well, thank you. But
yes.
Everybody here are geniuses in their own right with their own products and books and stuff. So I feel a little bit when you push my website right after
I do something a little for everybody.
Well,
so
I know
you
do. I do. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. In fact, you know what? I'll receive it, accept it.
Yes.
And all of you people watching, go there.
Yeah. There's the flashing neon sign behind you.
Like
That's right.
Barry with the relationships. 50 ways to love your lover. I think I said that right this
time.
What
I love about Barry's background is that yellow. It must be a vase.
It's a pineapple, I think.
Not
Which one?
The one off to his left.
This one or that one?
The other side. That side. Yep.
That one. Yeah,
pineapple.
that one there.
Yeah.
What is it?
I know it.
That's the chalice from the palace with the brew that is true.
it a glass object or is it just a colorful? Huh?
It's a glass object. It's supposed to be like a pineapple.
It's a background.
Yeah, it's a background.
Oh, it's not. That's not your real background.
No.
No,
Oh,
It's a hand grenade. Let's just move on.
That's your knick-knack.
Way to be optimistic,
Once
Scott.
we
Yeah, you
get
see-
into the pineapple, once we get into the pineapple conversation, it's all over.
Well, the pineapple above him.
And Mr. Hipster, you want to jump in there?
Where?
Wherever you want to. You got two good hips now.
Yeah,
can
no, I
wiggle
mean,
in there.
it's interesting because again, when you feel out of sorts, if you're that is probably you're not being very present. Or maybe you're feeling something that you just haven't felt in some time. And I think that's the time again, whether it's the stopping, resting. For me this morning, it was calling a friend. It picked a phone a friend. If you want something different, you got to do something different. It just that's the state change that happens if you think about anything like that. The level of thinking that got you to where you are is not the level of thinking you need to get you where you want to go, whatever that means, in the certain situation. So again, I think that totally agree with the optimism part. Zig used to say, positive attitude isn't everything, but it's a whole lot better than a negative attitude and what comes with it. The positive attitude is like, better to shower sometimes than not all the time, than never. I mean, it's clean your brain, clean the thing. What John's saying is so true about gratitude and just being grateful for everything. The reality is, no matter how stuck in the muck you might be at any particular moment, number one, it's not the most stuck that anybody's ever been, more than likely. And there are other people that are more stuck or in more muck than you are. And so be grateful for the fact that you're not in their situation. I mean, it's, you can't sit there and say that whether you believe God's plan and timing is perfect, you can't believe that all things work together for your good, and then sit there and say, except this situation here, this is the way it's supposed to work out differently. I mean, either you believe that the plan and the timing of the plan is perfect. It doesn't always look that way. I mean, my prayer when I had my stroke was, God, I've been teaching your plan and timing is perfect for the last couple of years now. I'm going to suggest to you, I do not understand this plan or this timing. I mean, that was part of my prayer right afterwards. Is I don't understand why this is going on, and I would prefer it not be going on, but it is. And so what can I learn from it? And I think that's, again, the judgments and the expectations. For me, the whole judgment thing is so crazy. It's everybody trying to, cast upon you what you're supposed to think about somebody. You know what? That's why I love Ben Carson's quote a number of years ago as a neurosurgeon. He said, when I open up the brain, they're all the same color. It doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman or black or white or purple or whatever. The inside is all the same. And so, again, if we would just learn to love each other and impart goodness toward each other, it's amazing what could happen. And imparting goodness, it's not that hard to smile at somebody. And guess what the response is? A smile back. Oh, gosh, what a terrible event that is. Right? Only in Arkansas, that's terrible. But bad tooth joke there. But anyway, it's why not try to impart some goodness as you go around, as opposed to, wallowing in the crap. Just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, not to bring karma into this, but
Absolutely.
if you believe in that, whatever you do comes back to you. So why not do good if you want good back to you. People that are so mean and grumpy say, I don't know why this always happens to me. Well,
have you looked at you?
Yeah. So.
Well, I think the positivity is actually important. I love this whole take a breath, take a moment, center yourself, be present, and that can help alleviate a lot of that stuff. One of the positive things that I've discovered in my life, and maybe this works for other people as well, is I understand that no matter what situation I walk into, I do have control over one thing: me. I get to go in there and determine how I want to listen. I could walk into a shit show, but if I want to be a decent human being in the middle of a shit show, then I can be. And if that is a comforting thought to know that because I spent part of my life not in control of me, or at least didn't feel like I was. So knowing that, and sometimes just saying, listen, no matter what I walk into, no matter what's going to happen, and sometimes I hate even saying that because that no matter what happens usually means no matter how bad it gets. But whatever I walk into, I get to choose how I am and who I am and what I get to be. And I think that's just a really good thought that helps me. I don't know if that's something that can help other people. That just keeps it very simple. Hey, when I walk through that door, yeah, maybe I got expectations. Maybe I even got some prejudgments. Maybe I've got some things going on here. But at the end of the day, the only thing I'm really concerned about, let me just be me and be the best me I could be in those situations. And usually everything works out fine. I will tell you this. Rarely am I shocked because it's much worse than I thought it would be. Rarely does that really happen. Mm-hmm. Although in my brain, every time I'm expecting that, So,
well, that's a choice again, Scott. Go ahead,
right.
John.
And the thing with that, Scott, is it's funny that you said that because I love angry customers. I love angry clients because I know I'm in control. My goal when I have a client prospect on the phone, by the time I'm done, if they don't laugh, I lost the deal. So when you're on with them, you're in control of yourself. You know you're a professional. You know what you're doing. They think they know what they're doing, but you know what they're doing. So you have that upper hand, and walking into a room, we used to call it first coat off, last coat on. You're when you go to a meeting, you should have if you're wearing a coat, you should have your coat on a hanger before anyone gets there. And you should take your coat off when everyone leaves. So you have control of that room. You have confidence in yourself. People know confidence. You ooze confidence. It's one of the most intriguing things I've ever done. So when you get someone that's not happy, or you get someone you want to win a deal, man, if you're confident and you take control, not in a cocky way, but you let them know you're going to guide them right, you'll take care of them. When you hang up that phone, man, it is the best sales feeling in the world.
I like that.
I like that. And I'd like to add the fact that if you go into any situation, you keep an open mind. And when somebody is upset or something, try to see it from their viewpoint for a minute. Like truly don't speculate or assume anything, and ask the questions. But most of all, when you listen to somebody, that's all they needed was somebody to listen and get that off their chest. And then if you listen well enough, you can put some insight, or you can understand what they're going through and then move on and change the conversation. But, don't allow that to stop you from being open-minded or listening.
But Lynn, that could be a whole show on its own. That could be a whole show on its own, how to take someone else's perspective and to adopt other people's perspectives. That could be a whole show.
And when you make someone feel better, how do they feel? Like top of the world, man. You make someone feel better about themselves, they feel amazing. And what are they going to do? They're going to go to the grocery store and say, I just talked to this mortgage guy, man. He's the biggest douche in the world, but man, he made me feel so good about myself. And their level of confidence has now gone up a little bit.
Well, I can't tell you how
aren't we full of ourselves? The biggest douche in the whole world.
I didn't know I had from here.
That's my new T-shirt. I got a T-shirt. It's going to say biggest douche in the world, but I'll make you feel good about yourself.
I wanted to point out something that Lorna had put in the chat, saying that she used to suffer anxiety attacks. There you go. And she's programming Rain to have an attack. And then she said she was fearful of the panic. But then once she became aware of her attitude and the response, she became in control and no more panic attacks. So she learned the power of thought and self-discipline. So anything is possible.
Yeah.
Good, great, good.
Like
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
Thank
Lorna,
you for sharing that.
Thanks, Lorna.
And
I think Scott was trying to say something a moment ago. I want to get Scott real quick.
Go, Scott.
Were you trying to say something after? Oh, okay.
Well, no, I was just going to say, the whole just wanting. I think there's so many choices. It was interesting listening to what you were describing before. You said, I walk into a place and sometimes it's even better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Why not choose to think every time it's going to be better than you thought it was going to be?
Right.
It's a choice, right? And again, it's not a knock, but I mean, there's just to point out language and to point out how to help somebody is, I work diligently to, try to help people smile and have fun and do whatever. It doesn't always happen, but you try to do those things to impart something, because I would much rather be around happy people. That's what's fun about this show is everybody gets, we get goofy and we're smacking each other and just having fun along the way. And so it's fun to do. Why wouldn't you want to put yourself in more fun situations on a daily basis? And so why not anticipate, oh my God, this is going to be so much better than I even have ever experienced? Maybe it's a little crazy, but why not?
I don't know. All my lessons have always been, you can hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And that's almost the training you to say the worst is going to happen more than the best is going to happen. It's almost training you. Because
and yet think of what you said before, Scott. You said my life experiences are far more positive than negative. So your experiences are actually more positive, but you're choosing to hold on to the other. The reality, I would guess, that our experiences, for the most part, I mean, my stroke was not a great experience, but it was this period of time compared to the rest of my life. And the fact is I came through it. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like, are you kidding me? Why hang on to the event as being stuck in that, as opposed to, I am so blessed that I came through that.
That's why I wrote a book and I left it there. Rex, if anybody wants to read
on top of that, I have two pet positions that I've maintained for decades, and that is, one is, you can think positive or you can think negative, right? I mean, those are the choices. And some people journal all the negative crap in their life. They just go, this was wrong, that happened, this sucked today, this is my limitation, this is my belief, I'm fat, I'm ugly, nobody likes me, I'm going to eat worms. And other people do some of both. And then some people focus mainly on blessings and gratitude and learnings and lessons and the optimism and the positivity and everything else. So there's positive thinking. And if you're not thinking positive, what's the alternative? The alternative is whatever it is, less than glorious, that's for sure. Now, the other thing that I have always maintained is it is better to expect the best and be disappointed than to expect the worst and be proven right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what people have to understand is that expectations shape so much of what we pay attention to and what we notice. It's our outlook on the world. We look out from within to what we see, but what we see is governed by what these filters are that we have developed through conditioning and experience. So in order to see more opportunity and less difficulty or disability or hardship or obstacle, you have to train yourself to see the goodness. It's like looking for the silver lining or digging for gold. You train yourself to see it, and you'll see more of it, because when you, like building a muscle, you lift a little weight, you can increase the amount of weight you lift. So the more you exercise that positivity, the optimism, and the positive expectations, and the positive belief and certainty that things will work out, or I don't know the answer to this, I haven't a clue, but I always land on my feet. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know that it always somehow works out for ultimate good, or that there's an opportunity here that I can find. So as long as you engage that process and keep it moving, you'll create that momentum. If you do nothing, it's not going to do anything. I mean, it's like your car is stuck, it's not going to go anywhere. But if you push your car, you can keep it going, just by a few pushes, because if it's in neutral, obviously, because you can create momentum on a flat surface.
And
not
I always
stay in motion.
And I always believe that there's always good in everything.
Yeah.
Is that where the reticular activation system comes in? I mean,
yes, and in other ways too, but absolutely.
If you focus on finding something, you will find it.
Well, the brain learns by emotion, by positive emotion. So peak positive experiences and peak negative experiences are ones that we remember. We don't remember lunch 3 days ago, because unless it was, a feel-good time or something momentous happened. The brain works the same way. The reticular activating system works by what is deemed critical for our survival, on the one hand, looking for the things that are wrong, or for matches for those peak experiences or those peak negative experiences. So the more peak positive experience, or what's important to you, the example is always you go out and you buy a car, and then you never saw that model car before, but now they're all over the road because your brain now opens up to it. But so with opportunity or with negativity, it's just what you focus on is what you get. That's why the brain operates. It's designed to find things to keep us alive and to keep us thriving. And
I love that. A lot of people talk about manifesting, and I think that's a part of how they come up with this. Manifest is whatever you step into, whatever attitude you bring into it is going to influence what's going to happen and what you're going to see and what you're going to experience. And I agree with that 1,000%. We are in the last few minutes, so let's do our once around so everybody can kind of get their thoughts in here. There's so much we can do. We could do another 2 hours on this and not run out of things to talk about. Of course, we could be discussing the ABCs and not run out of things to talk about with this panel. But I'm just good. Like I said, I'm going to kick it off that when I talk about for my focus, I love to focus on the fact that I get to determine, no matter what, I get to determine who I am and what I do and how I do things. And if I want to have a good time, truth is I do have a good time. And, Scott, I agree with you. If you want to look for something, it's more likely you're going to find it if you feel like you're going to find it, or if you go in with the attitude, you're going to find it. And that works in every case, unless it's Barry in the barn looking for a horse, because we've already figured it out. That ain't never happening. So let's go around and just kind of put a pin on this, or kind of sew it up nice and neat about judgments, expectations, and how we handle those things. Who wants to kick us off? John, why don't you kick us off for our finals here?
I'll kick you off. And it's funny, I was looking at my phone, and there are several people, again from the UK, Barry. They're right behind you. The expectations. I tell
what are you, one of the freaking Beatles? What's going on here?
Barry, they did. They're like, "Where's Barry from?" I'm just telling you. I'm getting texts about Barry, not about me. About Barry, just so you know. So it hurts just a little
Barry
bit.
has a book right here. 50 Ways to Love Your Lover.
Doesn't have a book. John doesn't have a book. We've already covered this.
That's why you're the center.
Thanks for the reminder, Lynn.
That's on the center square. Okay. So real quick, finishing it up, I have preached to my team on manifestation. It's funny you said that. I believe in that. You wake up every day, man, before you get out of bed. What are you doing? How's your day going to be? What are you thankful for? You do that for 6 weeks, that shit starts to happen. You literally feel a click in your brain, but you got to be consistent, man. I did this when Lynn asked me to come on. I started this maybe 2 months ago. I would love to be on a podcast. I'm grateful to be on a podcast. It's not past, it's future. Thank you for being on a podcast. And I wasn't on it. So you do that. You wake up, you be comfortable, you be confident, man. And this is what it's about. And you meet awesome, awesome people like you, honestly. And I thank you for it. But if you don't believe in it, it's not going to happen. If you believe in it, give it 4 to 6 weeks. You're going to feel a little click right here. And all of a sudden, your future is going to happen.
And Amen, like brother. Rex would say, I got to change the sign. Either think of dog shit or diamonds. You choose.
And whenever I read that, it says "you cheese" to me. I don't know why.
You hunk of cheese, you.
I gotta change that someday. I promise. Anyways,
Barry, what do you got to say, man?
Following the dog. No, okay.
Keep in mind, you've got a whole country of fan club. You got a whole thing going on over
Apparently.
there.
Come on, Barry.
So speaking of that, I just finished editing and reviewing and revising my book. It's its 10th anniversary this year.
Awesome.
So this new edition is up on Amazon now, which is it's not changed the languaging, but I've reordered the sequence of it now. It lands a bit better than it did 10 years ago when I wrote it, so that's a good thing.
Nice.
But to speak to this thing, since I want to bring the area of relationships, my sort of thing, most of the time when I'm talking to clients and prospective clients is they're spending most of the time looking back at the past with regret, looking at the past breakup. And one of the things is, and I'm just going to mention this one because it's a sideline about the peak experiences, negative, is a lot of times people focus on the divorce, not on the marriage they had or the ending of the relationship.
Wow.
They focus on the ending, not the beginning. So that's one thing for people to think about. Second thing is a lot of people look for a relationship in the rearview mirror. And I said the biggest problem is trying to drive your car using the rearview mirror is dangerous for one and almost impossible for two. So if you want to have what you want in your life, relationship, whatever it is, if you're focusing on what you don't have, focusing on what you didn't have before, it's going to be very hard to get where you want to go. So part of the work I do with my clients is to have a clear vision of what they want. And that's the thing, like John was saying, you're already affirming what you want to have before it happens. Now, if it doesn't happen now, it may happen in 2 weeks. It may happen in 2 months. But if it doesn't happen tomorrow and you were thinking about it today and you're getting upset about the fact it didn't happen when you thought it was going to happen, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So when you have a clarity of what you want to have, making it less time-based is good, but making it easier to be adaptable to what you want to have. So you focus on where you want to go, not where you've been. Much easier.
Awesome,
Wow.
Barry. Barry, the relationship guru. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
I'm
you.
blown away. I mean,
That was fantastic.
we've all established that we built a lot of things on our past experiences and everything. So it stands to reason how we view those past experiences is going to determine how we feel today too. So that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Didn't mention a barn once.
No horses, no bomb. Scott.
It's interesting. What just popped up to me was I was talking to a buddy last week that I hadn't really talked too much over the last couple of years, but and really not talking about a whole lot of nothing except, just how the family's, how's life, how things, how are you feeling about different stuff. And so we rekindled a conversation and a relationship more than anything, just talking about not much of nothing. And today he called me and he said, is it okay if I get you this new client? I didn't want to tell you about it last week, but as soon as we started talking, I went, oh my God, that's why I'm meeting these people, so I can introduce them to you. And so, you sit and you, again, the concept of high intention, low attachment. The high intention was just to have a nice time with him and his family and hang out and, have a nice conversation. There was no purposeful business. There was no purposeful this or that. It was just have a nice experience. And it's amazing how something potentially very magical has just shown up because of that. So again, I think it's where we focus, just keep on imparting good stuff. I'm going to say it for John. Send a text to 6 people tonight and just tell them you freaking love them. And that John told you to do it. And they'll go, who the hell's John? Just don't worry about that. I'm going
to do it right now. I'm going to do it right now.
Rex, wrap us up, brother.
Yeah. And Scott, I do love the name of your book. I just got to say, that one time. That sucks. What now? And then we got Rex.
Well, thank you. And Scott said earlier about judge and jury, and that is such a profound concept that most people don't necessarily fully appreciate when they make a judgment or they make a juried opinion about themselves. in workshops and programs, somebody would say, I can't do this, it's hard. And I go, well, who died? When did God die and leave you, to be God? And they go, what are you talking about? I go, well, how do you know you can't do it if you've never done it yet? You're assuming like you're an authority and you're declaring that this is impossible for you and you can't do it. People don't understand that everything they say, their thoughts are reflected by what they say. They don't say everything, like they hold some things back in public, but they don't say everything, but they think it. And what they say is a reflection of what they think. So it's twofold. So when someone says this is going to be hard, it's more likely that it will be. If they say I'm fat and ugly, it's probably true, but it's not because it's true for other people, but it's true in their mind. So people don't understand that everything that they declare or assert is an affirmation. And if you think about, what we bring about bad feelings and ill health and financial disaster and despair and all these different kinds of things. Oftentimes, because what we're thinking and what we're speaking is being that judge and jury and declaring that is the case. And if that's the case, then what other case is there? So this is why you have to learn how to control your thoughts, manage your emotions, put a guard in front of your speech so that you only speak to heal, bless, prosper, inspire, edify, uplift, and transform, instead of declaring things that they suck. Because you're always no cognitive dissonance and all this confirmation bias and everything. Your brain is always trying to prove you right, and you consciously want to be right. Nobody likes to be wrong. So if you say I'm a fat slob, guess what? You speak the truth, even when it's not the truth for other people about you. So stop declaring things you don't want and start declaring the things that you do want and that you are, that are good and positive and wonderful and loving and true and kind, and you'll have a much better life.
Rex, I love you so much. You're my mentor, and I just appreciate you so much. I appreciate every one of you guys here. We're so blessed. Everyone listening is so blessed to have these people here, and really go check them out. Go, stalk them on Facebook and everywhere, because that's my Long Island, but anyways, I just love
stalking
you guys so
is
much.
wrong. It was in my divorce papers. Stalking is wrong. We don't do that. Just telling you.
Can I follow up one thing with Barry? Barry was looking in the rearview mirror. Yes. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I believe it was Gumball Rally, not Death Wish 2000, but Gumball or whatever it was.
With Burt Reynolds, yes.
You're right. When they're getting ready to cross the country, and the guy gets in with an Italian guy in a little Fiat or whatever, and he rips the rear view mirror off and throws it away. And the guy goes, "What are you doing?" Yeah. What's the behind me? It's the behind me.
Oh yeah, remember that.
I love that.
On that note, I know Rex's alarm went off, and I don't want to take any more of you guys' time. I really love and appreciate you guys, and we do miss you when you're not here too. We miss our other people that are not here too. So it doesn't go unnoticed.
You're going to make it what you're going to make it, and as Henry Ford said, if you think you can, if you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
So. You said.
Well thank you guys so much.
Really
for the
all right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah. And one last thing I want to say, remember, whatever you judge, believe it or not, you're judging what's going to be in your future. Think about that. So it's only true.
I'm just looking forward to this. I'm just looking forward to the stalkers.
Okay, bye.
Keeping
me safe and sound.